Welcome back, friends. You're watching The Shadow of Satoshi. Today, we'll talk about how to analyze a crypto project before buying its tokens. Properly, patiently, and with understanding. So take a deep breath, and let's begin. When it comes to real analysis, there are around 30 to 35 criteria that professionals use, but not all of them are equally important. Many are sub-criteria, supporting signals for the main categories. So in this episode, we'll focus on the 20 most essential factors. And most importantly, I'll show you which sites and tools to use, and what kind of information to extract from each of them. The first thing we need, of course, is a reference point, a foundation from which we'll start. And that's always the market price of the token. There are many ways to find it. You can check exchanges or use analytical platforms. Personally, I prefer TradingView. In this example, we'll analyze BNB, not as a buy or sell signal, but simply as a clear demonstration of the process. When we look at BNB's chart, we see that right now it's trading around $1,000. The next step is to understand how far can it realistically rise and how low can it fall. We won't look at the entire historical range because prices from 2018 to 2024 no longer matter. The market evolves. It never truly returns to those levels, so we focus on the recent year. In that range, BNB traded between $530 and $1,300. That gives us perspective. We can now calculate how much it dropped from the top and how much it's recovered from the bottom. Currently, it's down roughly 30% from its highs and up almost 170% from its lows. That's significant. And when a large cap asset grows five-fold, we generally avoid buying at those levels. It doesn't mean the project is bad. It means the risk-to-reward ratio is no longer ideal. However, no single metric defines a decision. A professional investor looks at the entire picture, a combination of all factors. Each piece adds context to the whole. Now, back to our current case. A 30% drop from the peak is not terrible, but it's also not an ideal entry point. When we invest, we try to buy at least 50% below the highs, or even lower if possible. That's why I never buy all at once. I divide the position into three parts. The first part, when the price drops 50% from the highs, the second, if it drops another 50%, and the third, if it falls once more from there. This way, I build a solid average entry price, and usually after enough time, that patience pays off. Because in this market, you don't win by guessing, you win by positioning. Now that we've looked at the market price, its highs, its lows, and the current state, let's go deeper. For that, we'll use a tool called cryptorank.io. Type the name of the token, in our case BNB, and open its profile. Then go to the ICO tab. Here you'll see all the details about the early stages, pre-sale, seed rounds, IDOs, ICOs, everything related to how and when investors first entered the project. Now, one of the most useful numbers here is the average token purchase price for early investors. In the case of BNB, the early investors bought at an average price of 15 cents. So, what does that tell us? It allows us to calculate how much the token has multiplied since the early rounds, and in turn, how much profit those investors are sitting on today. When we divide the current price by the pre-sale price, we get the multiple, or X's, made by early investors. For BNB, that number is around 6,670x. That means early investors could, in theory, take profits worth 6,670 times their initial investment. And when you see numbers like that, you should pause. because it's rarely logical to buy from someone who got their tokens almost for free. There are exceptions, of course, but as a general rule, we prefer that this multiple doesn't exceed 10 times or 1,000%. Why? Because statistically, early investors and funds usually begin to sell after roughly 10 times from their entry price. They lock profits. That's what they do. So, if the current price is within a 10 times range from the pre-sale, that's a healthy zone, a place where growth potential still exists and the early investors aren't rushing to dump. But when you see something like 6,000x, as in the case of BNB, that's too far gone. Now let's move away from market metrics and talk about something equally important, the social layer of a project. Because behind every chart there's a network of people, connections and influence. And the best place to see that network in action is X, formerly known as Twitter. This is where we analyze who follows the project and who the project itself follows. It might sound simple, but it can reveal more than most realize. There are 4 key categories to pay attention to. 1. Investment funds, who finances or watches this project. 2. Other crypto projects, potential partners or collaborators. 3. Influencers and opinion leaders, the voices that shape sentiment. 4. Audit firms, the ones who actually reviewed the project's code. If these 4 groups are present in the project's network, that's already a good sign. Now, the easiest way to do this is simple. I'll leave a link below to a curated list of accounts on X, funds, projects, influencers, and auditing companies. You can follow them to build your own watch list, but don't follow too many at once. X can flag that as spam and temporarily restrict your account. Alternatively, you can build your own list manually. Start following the main crypto funds, a few credible auditing firms, and well-known analysts. Then, when you're researching a project, say, for example, SUI, go to its official X page and follow it. Now look carefully. How many of the accounts you follow, funds, projects, or influencers, also follow this project? The more overlap, the better, because that overlap means attention, and in crypto, attention is often the earliest form of capital. But remember, for us, the most important signals come from funds and projects, not influencers. Funds bring money, projects bring collaboration. So, if you see that a token is being followed by, say, 5 investment funds and 5 solid crypto projects, that's a very healthy indicator. It doesn't guarantee success, but it tells you that serious players are paying attention. And in this market, that's never accidental. And now we move to the final category of evaluation, the additional factors that are not always decisive, but are still important to consider when analyzing a project. These include trading volume, whether the token is multi-chain or not, whether it exists on multiple networks, and whether any meaningful ecosystem events are coming soon. So, let's break these down. Evaluating trading volume is actually the easiest step. Again, we go to cryptorank.io, and right on the project page, we can see the 24-hour volume. What are we looking for here? Simply, the higher, the better. High trading volume means you can buy or sell larger amounts without significantly moving the price. It also means the token is more stable, less likely to disappear, and generally supported by healthy market activity. The next important point is multi-chain presence. Does the token exist on multiple networks? If a token is available only on a single chain, especially a small one, that may be a red flag. Scam projects rarely invest the time, money, and expertise required to deploy across multiple networks. But serious projects do. A true ecosystem expands. A scam does not. There's one more layer left in our analysis, The portfolio of investment funds. In other words, does any major fund actually hold this project? To check this, we simply open the portfolio pages of well-known funds, for example, a 16Z crypto, and look at which tokens they currently hold. If the token we are researching appears in the portfolios of reputable funds, that is an excellent sign. It means real money, real due diligence, and real confidence behind the project. Now let me ask you something. What methods do you use when researching a project? Share your process in the comments. Your experience might help someone else see the market more clearly. I hope this video was useful, informative, and, most importantly, easy to understand. Move wisely. The Shadow of Satoshi.